Do you know that Gen Z, so 18 to 24-year-olds right now, are more conservative than 25 to 29-year-olds? This is remarkable. So if you find a 27-year-old, they are more likely to be liberal. There are more conservatives than there are liberals between 18 to 24-year-olds.
Yeah,
what is the reason for this, Blake?
You know, what's crazy, especially, I want to emphasize this, usually when you'd see this, they would downplay it and say, well, the number of independents just keeps going up, so a lot of just the people who would be liberal say they're independent. But with these numbers, both groups are 48% independent. And then, so all the movement has been from liberals to conservatives. What's driving it? I think
a 10-point movement if you look at this.
Yeah, exactly. So, conservatives up 5, liberals lost 5, just straight flipped. And I think what drives it the most is that I think it's all men, basically. If you're a young guy in high school, in college age, liberalism has become such an uncool ideology. Yes. It's become a very oppressive ideology. It's very suffocating. So when you and I were growing up, there was still that sort of, I am a radical dissident edge, even, to liberalism.
Correct.
It was already dominant in universities.
Totally right.
But it had more countercultural credibility. They had a little more credibility on free speech. That was still when you had, that sort of school marmish aspect on the right where, they wanted to censor television and all of that. We lost that culture war, and so now all of the people who are pro-censorship, who are telling you what you're allowed to think, what you're allowed to do, what you're allowed to say, all of these people are on the left. The kind of school marm personality, the Dolores Umbridge personality, which if you haven't read Harry Potter, you won't get that, but other young people will. And all these people are on the left, and it's just it's really uncool, it's really unpleasant, and also these people they lie to you a lot. And so, if you have the internet connection, you're able to go on social media, go on Wikipedia, go on, go look at videos for yourself. It's so trivial to discover things that you're supposedly not allowed to think. And all of the people having interesting thoughts these days are on the right.
That's right.
And so if you're a young person and that appeals to you, you're going to be pulled towards the right. And it's not everyone, but it's definitely a shift. We're getting a type of person we have not gotten in a long time on the right. And that's a very promising development.
And I mean, just the type of individual, and we'll put this up on screen. We could play one of these tapes here, but look, the videos are amazing. The type of person on campus, Blake, when I first started this advocacy 10 years ago, if I walked into a frat house, it would have been very socially liberal, right? And it would have been like, the Republicans are stodgy and not fun, and the Democrats are about free speech and live free. Now it's the opposite.
Yeah, the stereotype for a campus Republican would be sort of like this William F. Buckley wannabe, and they'd be wearing their tweed jacket that didn't really fit in, and let's just have a meeting and we shall talk about Burke and his influence on,
which I'm happy to do, but
which is great. I'm okay with all of that, but it was very dominant with that thing, and it was also sort of a defeatist ideology. Campus conservatism, sort of the National Review ideology, was always it was like, yeah, we're doomed, we're going to lose, we're going to get run over.
We're going to win the debate.
But we're going to be right is what's going to matter. And so you have much more of an attitude of, wait, we can win an election, we can try to turn the tide. And yeah, maybe we'll lose, but we'll go down guns blazing. But we actually can view this as a fight we're able to win. And that's very important because as we've seen, with our recent adventures in Nebraska, getting people to want to win is a big deal.
Yeah, and without a doubt. And understand that it's not just the men. Young ladies are starting to come more in our direction, but I mean, we're about to go University of Montana, just feet away from here, and we are going to be met with a huge crowd. They're anticipating over 1,400 people. By the way, just understand, that's 10% of the student body. If 1,400 people show up today, 10% of the whole student body, because there's 10,000 people that go to University of Montana. And there's something notable where it's not just cool, but it's fashionable. It is the movement. There's dare I say, there's a vibe to it. That it's also, their professors are overly policing the pronouns that they're using. The entire culture is, I love that word, suffocating. It is oppressive. It's like a boa constrictor. It is constantly trying to suck the life out of you. That is American leftism right now.
I think if you're a young person in college, that means you were in high school when COVID-19 happened. Yes. You lost maybe 2 years of your life. You had to sit on these fake virtual classrooms while teachers, read you lectures about George Floyd or systemic racism, you might have had that garish pride flag in your classroom, in a public school classroom. You would just have this, propaganda in favor of some of this stuff. And, I don't want to overplay it. I would say if you look at young people, a lot of them are still fairly socially liberal, certainly more than you or I.
Correct.
But not everyone is like that. You have some people who are really swinging our way.
Let me say, though, that they believe in traditional gender norms, though.
Yes.
That's not social liberal. Meaning they don't think the trans thing is increasingly unpopular. They're definitely okay with homosexual marriage, which I'm not, and fine. And they're definitely okay with abortion. But the trans thing seems to be a little bit of a line.
Yes. It was too much of an assault on, the basic understanding of reality. Like,
yes.
Abortion, unfortunately, a lot of people just say, you can meet these people. They're like, yeah, it's a baby, it's a human, and it's okay to kill them because I want to have sex whenever I want. Very ghastly.
Yes.
But to say, like, yeah, this guy is totally a woman now is just, it requires you to believe too many things that are obvious.
It's also inherently tyrannical because it's not just that you believe it, it's that if you don't believe the man is a woman, then you're going to be penalized and punished, and you're going to have your livelihood taken away from you.
Yeah, you could lose your job, be sued because you won't say that man is a woman, and you have to really believe it.
So this ties into a amazing victory that I want to get into in Austria, which happened this last weekend. Populists, by the way, this is you want to talk about two signs of why Trump might win. I'm not guaranteeing but there's two things. If you say, Charlie, what is working in Trump's favor? Western governments right now are seeing populist uprisings from Austria to the Netherlands to parts of Germany to parts of France to parts of Argentina that are around the Trump message. Very, very positive for Trump. And number two, voter registration numbers, which we'll talk about in the last segment here. The country is becoming profoundly more right-wing. Young people, though, are the reason why this Austrian party was ascendant. What are the details here, Blake? This is really something. It's the Austria Populist Freedom Party.
The Freedom Party of Austria, I think, is
it achieved its largest election success in its party's history on Sunday as young voters flocked to support the anti-mass immigration and its remigration policies. The FPOE won 29.2% of the national vote. So younger voters in Austria are the ones that are pushing the country more right-wing.
Yeah, and this guy's great. He's first of all, he kind of very much captures some of the vibe we're seeing. Like, I think he's a college dropout. College is a scam.
Hey, love that.
And he said all this stuff where he's like, yeah, I think they'll say like his views are considered far right. He believes that migrants who commit crimes should be returned to their countries immediately.
His name is Herbert Kickl.
Herbert Kickl. I
love that. So Herbert Kickl, he calls himself I love this, the Volkskanzler, which means what? The people's voice?
The people's chancellor.
I was pretty close.
Yeah, they'll harp on that because there was, another person who was a chancellor, but they're all full of crap. Another one before we
I'm
go
sure
to
he
break,
has a dog too.
Yeah. Another one before we go to break, Canada, the most conservative generation in Canada is the under 30s.
Is that right?
Yeah, in terms of supporting the conservatives in the...
So we're talking about this at the break. If you guys want some hope and some optimism, look at what's happening in the Western sphere. In countries that you wouldn't expect, parties and movements that are embracing the Trump-style message are overperforming polls and are succeeding. This is a big deal, everybody, and it could mean major success coming in November.